And welcome everybody to the Delaware Live Sports DIA semifinal breakdown. I'm Benny Mitchell, and joining me are Glenn Frazier, Jason Winchell, Mike Lang, Pat Gariantes joins. Welcome, Pat, and Nick Halliday subbing for Nick Alessandrini this week as we go to our semifinal. So, guys, coming up, it's coming up to the end. It went, it seemed like it went slow, and now it's going fast. And in front of us this weekend, we have two semifinals in all three classes. So we'll start our way through, starting with single A first. And Friday night, 7 o'clock, the number 5 Indian River Indians and the number 1 Laurel Bulldogs. This is a rematch from week 9 where Laurel went on the road and they escaped with a 14-3 win over the Indians. It was a block PAT in overtime that won it. Interestingly, that was Indian River's last regular season game, and they had a 3-week layoff to have that ending to your season and go into the playoffs. They had 3 weeks to think about it. But this Indian River team, they feature a power running game with the Hall brothers, Hayden and Dalton. Coach Phil Townsend, he'll put TJ Burke in that backfield. He just committed to Lehigh last week, so he's going to be a Mountain Hawk. He usually goes into lead blocking that when they run that full, I call it T-Buck, full house backfield. But hey, they will hand Burke to run the ball, and this kick and run. He was the 285-pounder on the wrestling team last year, finished third in the state. So he's athletic, he's big, and he can run. Laurel, a little more balanced. Javier White is their Mr. Everything. He has scored in every facet of the game. And listen to this, not just offense, defense, special teams. On offense, he has run for a touchdown, received a touchdown, and thrown for a touchdown. So he has scored touchdowns in every way possible for them. They have Caden Shockley getting more and more comfortable. He's matured over his 3 years at quarterback. He gives Coach Joey Jones a passing threat. And the defense of these two teams are just physical. It's going to be a hard-hitting game. The only difference I see between the two is if Laurel can turn this to a track meet. Indian River doesn't have that guy with track speed. The Hall brothers can get up and down the field. They're good for about 45, 50 yards, and somebody will get an angle on them and take them out. But if it can be 3 yards in a cloud of dust, Indian River's got a chance in this game. I'll go to Glenn first. Your thoughts on this triple or single A game?
No, I think you just about wrapped it all up there, buddy. You've seen these two this season. I have not seen either one. But it was interesting earlier on in the year until about the midpoint that we thought it was a 2-horse race in 1A between Laurel and St. Elizabeth's. And then Indian River gave St. E's a game. They gave Laurel a game. And it's, guess what? It's a 3-team race. And it all depended on how the bracket came out, what side of the bracket was Indian River going to be on.
Right.
Unfortunately, for the top-seeded Laurel Bulldogs, they end up in their side of the bracket. But you know what it does? It guarantees an upstate, downstate state championship game. That's what it does. I see this being close. I see it being closer than the other semifinal with St. Elizabeth's and Tatnall. I'm with you. 2 bang-up defenses. That should be a low-scoring game. I see it being maybe 2 touchdowns for each team again. 14-13, 14-12, maybe 14-14 in overtime. I give Laurel the slight edge. Like you said, they've got a little more speed, and you can't teach speed. So if the Bulldogs have the opportunity to get in space and use their speed, then they should come away with a close win. I favor the number 1 seed and the top half of that bracket.
And Mike Lang, give us your perspective on the southern half, we'll call it, of the single A bracket.
I haven't seen Laurel. I saw Indian River like the rest of us did up here when they played against St. Elizabeth's, and I liked what I saw from IR. I don't know if Laurel has. I'm sure they've gone back and looked at the film from that game, and I'm sure Indian River has as well. Maybe they pick something up. I think Laurel's going to be a little too tough. But it wouldn't shock me if Indian River won. I favor Laurel in this one. But I'd love to go down and watch the game. But I'm not sure my car would make it that far. So I'm not sure we're going down to Laurel on Friday. But I think that's going to be a great game. I know that people are complaining about the lack of competitive games, but I think they're going to get one on Friday down there in Laurel.
Jason, you're looking at this game now. Mike says long trip, but hey, they're canceling the Christmas parade in Laurel for this
That's
game.
big.
I mean, they're opening the streets for you guys. What do you think, Jason?
Yeah, I'll tell you what, two towns that really get behind their football programs down there, Benny, and I like both defenses. I think both defenses have been special all year. Indian Rivers played the top two teams and gave up 2 touchdowns in both games. And why Laurel and St. E's can put up points at will all season, and when they played IR, they could only manage a couple touchdowns. So I really like both teams' defense. It's going to come down to at the end of the game, who makes the plays, in crunch time. And I think this is going to be one of those fourth quarter games, and let's see what team has that magic in the fourth quarter. But I'm with them. I'd favor Laurel, but don't count out an IR win on the road in this one.
Pat Gariantis.
Yeah, Benny, I mean, like these guys have said, I was there when Indian River traveled up to Abyssinia to take on St. E's, and the key in that game was they forced turnovers. St. E's had like 3 or 4 turnovers, a lot of them in the second half, and that allowed Indian River to climb back in the game. I think the key for them offensively is going to be running the ball. You mentioned the Hall brothers. Burke is the dancing bear back there in the backfield. If they're able to start off with possession, churn the clock down, much kind of like what the strategy was for Appoquinimink this past weekend and for Caravel. Unfortunately, they weren't able to, hold on to that kind of strategy. But if they're able to slow the tempo of the game, keep the ball away from that high-powered Laurel offense, it'll keep the game close. If they're not able to do that, Laurel could, they're talented, like you said. This game could go 2 different ways. If Indian River is able to execute that game plan and force some turnovers and control the football with their running game, then they absolutely have a chance to pull off the upset. It's going to be a great matchup. And like you guys said, I think it is the matchup of the semifinals for that division for sure.
All right, so let's move to the other game in Class A. Number 3, Tatnall versus number 2, St. Elizabeth, 7 o'clock, Abyssinia Stadium on Saturday night. Tatnall made a late comeback to beat Seaford 15-12 Saturday afternoon. The Hornets, they're making history. This is their first tournament win. They're in the tournament back in the 80s. Now they have a rematch with the Class A District 1 champ, St. Elizabeth, who beat Wilmington Charter 19-0 in the semis. Now, Pat, these are your Vikings. You're the Viking on the panel. Any concern with the lower output, offensive output from St. Elizabeth? I mean, mid-season they handled Charter 14-7. This time they got the shutout, but they only put 19 on the board. Obviously, you have to give credit to the force, figuring some things out, making the adjustments second time around. But do you see any concern with that, with the big blowout and then coming back winning by 3 touchdowns?
Right. And on paper, you would be concerned, right, Benny? You would be, especially it was 7-0 at halftime. But when you look at it from the broader scope and realize Kasim Benson wasn't playing in that game, you understand why. I mean, he is Mr. Everything there. 32 touchdowns on the season. I mean, he just makes a lot of plays. He's hobbled with an ankle injury right now. They gambled by not putting him out there and having him, risk further injury there. It worked out for them. They got the win. If he can play and is close to full strength, they should handle the Hornets like they did in the first meeting this season. However, Tatnall's got confidence, maybe something they didn't have in that first meeting this year. I believe it's 7 of 8 or 7 in a row they've won if you include the playoff game. So a lot of times with a team like that, they don't understand, maybe that they're supposed to lose or that they're the underdog in this situation. They just come out there and play football. Anything can happen in this, but it will come down to if Benson plays or not. If he plays, St. E's has got a really good opportunity to run away with this. If he doesn't, expect a tight matchup like you saw with the Charter Force.
Glenn Frazier, give us your outlook on the we'll call it the northern part of this.
Yeah, you other guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but I thought Benson did start that ball game against Charter. He scored the first touchdown. So he played at least a little bit early in the game. I'm not sure what happened after that, if they pulled him out once they scored. As Pat just said, he's the key in this whole thing. And it's not if he plays, as if he plays well. How bad is that injury? Is that a high ankle sprain? High ankle sprain takes a lot longer to heal than just a lower ankle sprain. He had 3 weeks off basically after that last regular season game. And again, I guess he didn't play a lot in that game against Charter. So he got a little bit of rest there. But it's how effective can he play? Yeah, I mean, if he's just out there maybe as a decoy, I don't know, maybe Tatnall figures that out. But to me, he's not only got to play, but he has to be effective. And if he can't be, that'll tighten that matchup a little bit. And I still favor St. Elizabeth's. They have other weapons. Actually, when Benson went out early in the Caravel game, they still played well for a while. So I still give the number 2 seed, St. Elizabeth's, the nod in this game. I just think going forward, Benson's health is a real concern if they get past the semifinals to the championship game.
I don't know, past the former Viking, but Mike covers the Catholic Conference. Mike, let's see if he has any backroom talk.
Well, I think St. E's is in good position. I think Benson mentioned Glenn. He hasn't played really in 3 weeks or so. He played a quarter on Saturday against Charter. Scored that touchdown. You know, Coach Lemon got him out. I don't know if he was feeling any adverse effects from his ankle injury or if it was planned to pull him out of the game. But they have other weapons on the ground. You know, they have Chris Character on the ground and Mikey Downs. Brett Smith can throw the ball. You know, really for Tatnall, it's Rashawn Lamons is their main weapon, and I just think Sandy's has too many bullets for Tatnall. Can I still say that? No.
Too many wizards.
Yeah, you're good.
Just too many weapons for Tatnall. You know, with Downs and Smick and Character, and they have Gavin Andrews came out and scored the other day, and he's a guy that didn't get a whole lot of press during the year, but he's the guy who can play. So, you know, Kasim Benson is the straw that stirs that drink, but they're not. He's not alone. So I think, and I think St. E's is too big up front for Tatnall, but it should be a fun game.
Nick Halliday, this game's being played in your neighborhood. Tell us about it.
I mean, we all know about the Benson thing. We know that he's definitely, like you said, 80% of that team, a big part of that team. You know, but there's going to be some things that I think in this game against Tatnall. First, kudos or, you know, a great season for Coach McMullen. I mean, we had him on the show, and then we got to talk to him about the Friends game, and then they you know, the poor performance in the Friends game. They turned their season around, so it was nice to see them, you know, do different things and get to where they actually now are into the playoffs. So congratulations to Tatnall. For this game, for me, I know Benson is a big factor, but I think the defense for St. Elizabeth's, when you look at Eric O'Neill and Carl Taylor, I think, you know, a couple of players on that St. East team that I think are just going to be too much for the offensive line and Tatnall to handle. They're going to have to do something different, you know, but I think the defense for St. Elizabeth's is just going to be too much in this game. But going forward, they're going to need Kwasim Benson no matter who they face, whether it's Indian River or Laurel, if they do get past Tatnall.
Jason, can Tatnall do what Women of Charter did and close the gap a little bit and make this a game they can win?
I think they can. You know, they have confidence. First of all, you know, they're playing with house money, as I like to say. You know, no one's probably going to pick them to win this game. They're going to go in there. You know, this is a team that didn't even play football last year. You know, during the COVID season, and you know, here they go. They're in the Class 1A semifinals. You know, this is what this 3 class. It's for teams like Tatnall, a team that hasn't been in the tournament since the early 1980s. So, you know, it's great to see. What I like from them is they played a tough schedule. They played Archmere. They played Wilmington Friends. They played Tower Hill and St. Elizabeth's. That's their 4 losses, all 4 great teams. So, you know, they're going to have to try and find a way to keep it a low-scoring game because they're not going to score much on St. E's. Everyone said it. St. E's defense is going to be the key to this game. So they're gonna have to find a way, maybe throw in a couple trick plays, or like I said, play with some house money and try and get some scores. But I'm with these guys. I think St. E's is going to pull out the W and advance. But I think the Hornets could make this a interesting game.
So a lot of talk out there around Delaware. It's Class A was a class with a lot of blowouts. I think now that we're down to the Final Four, we're going to see a better class of football. Anybody disagree that now that we're down to those teams, we could get a blowout maybe in that St. E's game? We'll have to see, but at least in the other half, I think we're going to have a hard-hitting football game there.
Oh, I agree.
I agree.
Yeah. All right, folks, that's our single leg talk. We're going to take a quick commercial break right here, and then we come back. We're going to talk about the 2A, and this is the class that, guys, I think we all agree, we said coming into the season was the most exciting class to watch. So, folks, stick with us. We'll be right back after this commercial.
Hi, I'm Scott Kammerer from Solo Concepts. Today we're at Lupo Italian Kitchen in downtown Rehoboth Beach. Come check us out. Located inside the Hotel Rehoboth, Lupo serves coastal Italian cuisine with fresh pasta made in-house daily. Lupo features plenty of unique craft cocktails and an extensive award-winning all-Italian wine list. Popular dishes include lobster bucatini, veal meatballs, grilled swordfish, and eggplant parmesan. Lupo Italian Kitchen on Rehoboth Avenue, serving happy hour daily and dinner 7 days a week. See you soon.
At Ferris Home Improvements, your family's comfort and safety is always our top priority.
If you call us for your roofing, windows and doors, siding, decks, kitchen, and bathroom needs, you can expect health screen craftsmen who wear gloves and face masks and follow minimum 6-foot distancing, virtual conferences to discuss project details, job quotes delivered electronically or brought to your door for your review and approval, and our showrooms in Newark and Rehoboth Beach remain open for limited appointments.
We're here together.
Operating with precautions.
To protect our staff.
And our customers.
At Ferris Home Improvement.
All right, welcome back to Delaware Live Sports. Benny Mitchell here with the crew, and we're going to start talking AA playoffs now. And this is the class I think we all thought was and has been all year the most exciting class. Glenn has put his money on Archmere. I'm still not I'm not ready to bet a lot yet because there's still 4 good teams in this playoff, and I think we are going to see exciting playoffs here. I think this is where we're going to see the battles this weekend. So let's start with the first game, noon at Archmere. It's number 5 ranked Delaware Military, or number 5 seed Delaware Military, and number 1 seeded Archmere, the state runner-up last year. Seahawks, Hawks 2, we'll call it. How about that?
Yeah.
Both teams cruised through their quarterfinal matchup. Archmere has carried the number 1 ranking and seed very well since they beat Howard in week 3. On Saturday, they faced St. Mark's for the second time. This time, not even close. The Ox rolled 41-0. DMA went into Caravel. It was a defensive battle in the first half up until 1 second to go in the game. With no time left, the Seahawks score. They go up 7-0. And in the second half, from watching the game, all DMA. They win 33-0 to advance to the semis. Mike, DMA has put up an 85-0 so far in the playoffs in the tournament. They defeated the Hawks defeated DMA 27-7 on the last week of the season. Should we expect a different outcome, or is this going to tighten a little bit?
It's going to be closer. I think DMA had some turnovers in that game. I mean, they were pretty jacked up that night. I'm not sure what the letdown was. They couldn't hold on to the ball. Archmere, I think the thing about Archmere, number one, they're still a little ticked off about last year. He's speaking about early 80s. That's the last time Archmere won a state championship. I mean, Udovich's dad was playing for those teams, Pat Sr. Archmere's got so many weapons, and starts with the quarterback, Chris Albero. He's got Connor Udovich and Declan Pearson and Johnny Kim, Matt Delos, Max Ewing. He's got all kinds of weapons, but I don't think it's going to be nearly as easy as it was the first time. I think it's going to be a great game. DMA, they've been talking a big game all year, and they've put up so far. So I think it's going to be a great game up there on Saturday, and I'm looking forward to it. I might just walk from my house. I don't think there's going to be much parking anywhere near Archmere Academy on Saturday, but it should be a good one. I think it's going to be a pretty pretty darn close game.
Pat, you had the call on Saturday night and you got to see DMA, and man, they were just impressive in that game, especially in the second half. They just lit it up. Talk about this game coming up.
Yeah, I mean, the key's going to be, Mike alluded to it. Nick put the fingers up. I mean, it's going to come down to turnovers. We talked about it last night, me and Nick, is a key to the game for them is to take care of the football and to not rely, but utilize Devin Green, because he really is a difference maker, man. If they get him the ball 20, 25 times a game, he's going to produce for you. So if they could take care of the football, play clean like they did last night, and their defense just really stepped up huge in that first half, 2 backbreaking potential drives by Caravel, and they couldn't score. Drumgo, they shut him down. I think he only averaged about 3 yards a carry, which is something that you just didn't see from him this year. If they're able to do that, obviously Archmere's a little more well spread out. They will not turn the football over. That's what I think will be the key in this. Who's going to be more disciplined? Because they're both pretty evenly matched in terms of talent.
Nick Halliday, I went up last year, called the game between Archmere and Woodbridge. Archmere finds ways to force turnovers, whether they're stripping the ball, whether it's gang tackling. That's Archmere football. And like Pat said, they don't turn it over themselves. You guys be at the game. Talk a little bit about it.
Yeah, I mean, I did put the fingers up. I mean, they had 4 turnovers and then 2 turnovers on downs of not being able to get 4th down conversions. So, I mean, I agree that both of these teams are very evenly talented. It's going to be. I'm excited. I can't wait to see it hit round 2. We got some insight. They had some things going on over there at DMA. BJ Allen wasn't 100%.
Yeah,
he was 100% last night, and you could tell. Obviously, the big thing is going to be turnovers, but DMA's got to clean some stuff up. They had a few penalties. They had some unsportsmanlike last night in that game that they're not going to be able to do and get away with against a team like Archmere. So to me, that's the difference, is cleaning up their game and no turnovers, and then seeing if they can come away with a victory against a very, very good disciplined Archmere game, that Archmere team that I just think it's going to be another good game. I don't think that Archmere wins by the point spread they did last time.
Yeah, Jason, we had Archmere on the show. Kids are always well spoken. They're great kids. They're upstanding citizens, but they're not going to be pushed around. And they've showed that the past 2 years. You're not going to bully Archmere. And talk a little bit about this game coming up.
Yeah, and one thing about Archmere is their defense is solid. They're a top-notch defense. St. Mark's, I think, had 38 total yards in that game on Saturday.
Wow.
And,
Wow.
Archmere they just don't give up anything on the ground. And the first time they played DMA, both defenses were great. I mean, Archmere scored 3 times when they got the ball inside the red zone off of turnovers. They had short fields, and that's what capitalized. Glenn and I did a game last night where Sally's first possession, they had the ball they started at Sussex Central's 24. Good teams take advantage of those field positions. But DMA's defense has been solid all year, and they showed it again last night. They do not give up much. I think this is going to be a low-scoring defensive battle, and I think it's going to come down to field goal kicking. And Chris Farrow, who does it all, kicked 2 35-yard field goals into the win against St. Mark's, and they would have made it by about 35.5 both times. I mean, they just got over. But 35-yard field goal into the win of yesterday afternoon was pretty impressive, and he could be a key difference in this game, not only with his arm and his running ability, but by kicking the football.
If I'm not mistaken, he had 2 field goals versus Woodbridge last year in the semifinals. That one of them put the game away. So, Glenn, like myself, I'm not going to throw the ace thing out there again anymore. I did that last week, but we got to see the first set of Udoviches play back in the 80s, and now we're seeing the next set of Udoviches. So we get the best of both worlds, and I'm not so sure that these 2 younger ones aren't a little bit better.
Let me tell you what, and I've said it all year long, I think Archmere is extremely balanced. And what a defensive effort to hold St. Mark's. I heard it was 24 yards of total offense, but whatever it was very low. It was a dominating performance in that quarterfinal win. And then on the offensive side, Albero runs for 80 in that game. He passes for 175. And then, he kicks two 35-yard field goals. Connor Udovich, I think Mike alluded to the fact that the other Udovich brother, unfortunately, is injured and out for the rest of the season, won't even get to play basketball this year. That's a shame. But he still has other weapons in Declan Pearson and Matt DeLose. There's just so much balance offensively, and they're good on both sides of the ball. They're good on special teams. They're disciplined. They have everything. There's no weakness that I see in the Archmere Hawks. On the other side, DMA's having a very good season. 2 shutouts in the playoffs. BJ Eileen is a fine quarterback. The Greens are both good, Jordan and Devin. And what a defensive effort they had, shutting down Carabel with a couple of goal line stands. And as Pat said, they limited Drumgo to 103 yards on 34 carries. So you're right, Pat. That was about like 3 yards.
Yeah, 3.4.
And he's so much of their offense, and they took that away, or at least they limited it. I see this could be a tight game. I also, unfortunately, think that this game could get out of hand too. This might be the one game in the semifinals that could possibly be a little lopsided if DMA starts making mistakes, creating penalties, infractions. If they do that kind of thing and they get down 2 or 3 scores, this might not be a close game. I think it could be, but it might not be. And I still think Archmere overall is the best team in Class 2A. They're solid from top to bottom. And oh, by the way, guys, don't you think it's interesting that all 3 classes, 1, 2, and 3, here's what you have left: the 1 seed, the 2 seed, the 3 seed, and the 5 seed. All 3 classes.
Wow. Yeah, me and Trey were talking before the Indian River game because, we look at seeding a little different perspective than wrestling. And a lot of times that 4, 5, 3, 6 is a toss-up anyways. They're usually pretty competitive. So there we see the 5s, the 3 5s get through in the playoffs. Our next game in Class AA, Wilmington Friends, the number 3 seed, versus Woodbridge, the number 2 seed, Friday night, 7 o'clock in Greenwood. For a team that traditionally doesn't have a lot of flash to their game, the Quakers always seem to have some fantastic finishes in big games. They did it again in our only overtime game of the quarterfinals. Wilmington Friends took advantage of Delmar's wide right and advanced to the semifinals with a 21-20 victory. Woodbridge, on the other hand, is a great defense with a great defensive performance. Held Tower Hill under 100 yards for the game. Kenny Newton scores twice, finishes with 193, and had a 70-yard touchdown called back. So could have been worse. Guys, Woodbridge 37-1 at home over the last 7 years. They are 7-0 all time in state tournament home games, and currently on an 18-game home winning streak. Woodbridge is a tough place to come in and walk out with a win. It has become like the Delmar, the Castle, Sussex Central, even Middletown. The last loss, though, for the Blue Raiders, September 21st, 2018, Wilmington Friends, 24-21 on a Jacob Jaworski field goal. Jaworski now kicking it around up at Colgate. Let's start with Jason. We always get to see this game. Sometimes we get to see it twice, and now we're going to get to see it this year because of the playoffs.
Yeah, it's always a fun matchup, Benny, and like you said, nothing flashy for the Friends team, but they're always competitive. They're always in these games, and they always find a way to win them. And that's key. They're not going to be, and like you said, Woodbridge is a tough place to play. And to try and go down there and win, they're going to have to, like Glenn said, for Archbert, they're going to have to play a perfect game. They can't make mistakes. They can't have penalties. They can't turn the ball over. But I think if they do that, they're used to being in these close games. And I know that magic there at Woodbridge in the fourth quarter is really tough to overcome. And it might be too much for this Friends team. But the way they tend to win those close games, if they can somehow be in it in the fourth quarter, I wouldn't push it past them to steal a victory down there. But Woodbridge is my favorite. I think they win the game, but I think that Quakers team could make it very interesting down there. And like you said, Benny, they're the last team to win a game down there on that field.
At Woodbridge, you're right. Glenn, Tower Hill, they had a pounding tape offense this year. They don't let the other team have the ball much, but they saw a fast Woodbridge defense. And that's anybody that's seen any Woodbridge this year. I mean, those kids, they close fast in the secondary. They have Wide Right, I think, is the best linebacker in the state this year. He's got well over 100 tackles, and those aren't fudge numbers. That kid, every time I'm there, he's making 8-10 tackles a game. This is a little different Woodbridge team. They're all defense with a good offense.
I'll tell you what, at first look, there are so many good rivalry matchups in the semifinal rounds in all three classes. I mean, we're going to talk about 3A in another segment, but Middletown Sallies, Smyrna Dover, which used to be an outstanding rivalry back in the day. I think it used to be a Thanksgiving Day game, even before the playoffs started. There are rivalries that have been longer, but this has been a special rivalry since they started this in 2011 when the Blue Raiders won that first game 34-27. It's been pretty close. Woodbridge has won 6 of the 11 meetings, including titles at University of Delaware in 2016 and 2018 over Wilmington Friends. Only 2 of the 9 regular season games have been decided by more than one score. They've all been close games. Then Woodbridge, again, won the 2016 title, the first one in school history. That was a 5-point game. 2018 game, I think earlier in that season, they got beat by Wilmington Friends, but they came back and they won the title game. They came back and won the title game. So to me, it's great that these two end up getting matched up against each other. They were matched up, as you mentioned, in 2019 in the playoffs. This is Friends' 7th playoff year in the last 8 years. They missed the playoffs last year only because they reduced the number of teams because of the COVID. Woodbridge, of course, they've been in there. This is their 4th straight year in the semifinals. To me, it's just a great rivalry. It has not a long rivalry, but man, the feeling to me of a great rivalry is a good competitive matchup. And these two have been that since the get-go. It's upstate and downstate, and I mean, they are separated by quite a few miles. I love this matchup. I'm not going to talk about individual players. I just think this is going to be a great game. It's going to come down to be a close one. Either team can win it to me. I know Woodbridge is probably going to be the slight favorite, but I am looking forward to that game with great anticipation.
And Glenn, it's not only separated by a great distance between upstate and downstate, 2 totally different communities. You got the, Alapocas, the city, the city of Wilmington, and the farmers down here at Bridgeville Greenwood, Bridgeville Greenwood. Just 2 different communities. Mike, talk about this game a little bit.
I think what stands out from Woodbridge is how they won all these games early in the season. In the fourth quarter, they just kept coming back and coming back and coming back. Or, they win 2 games 6-0. I mean, I think this is they're like the cardiac kids down there. And seems like they really like playing for Marvin. And everybody that plays for Marvin likes him. Marvin Dooley's done a great job down there. Another Westcott. It seems like they're like the Udoviches. They never go away. Just great support from the community. What's not to like about Woodbridge? I haven't had a chance to see him this year live, but I know it's going to be a great game. And then Friends, you got Tattersall, who does everything for that team. He's got some weapons in Willie and O.C. Chukwuocha and a couple of other guys. Robbie Tattersall made a great pass in overtime to Gaines. I don't know if you guys saw the clip, but it was a beautiful fade pass right into the corner of the end zone to set up the game-winning extra point. And if there's a difference maker, that might be it. That Christian Eddie Walker, the kicker for Friends, really has a nice leg. And if it comes down to a field goal, and then this one could or an extra point, Friends has to feel pretty good having Alessio Christianetti Walker. I think any kicker with 3 names is money. So I'm looking forward to watching that one.
Nick, Woodbridge, 3 shutouts, 3 games with allowing a touchdown. They average on defense 9 points per game this year, and they have 4 defensive touchdowns.
Yeah, I mean this game, if I had to pick a winner or a spread, I would have to say that this would be the hardest game this weekend because of how good both of these teams are. The rivalry, like Glenn alluded to, and telling us about some of the history. And I mean, the only thing in this game that I see is probably the difference is the home field advantage for Woodbridge. We know that fourth quarter special. We know why. It gives you chills thinking about it. It's heart wrenching. But this Friends team has really surprised a lot of people, I think, this year with the way they played, how they win, and then winning when in ways that they need to win. And man, this game is probably the tightest game of the weekend for me. And I don't know, I can't pick a winner. I'm just gonna watch, wait, and see how the outcome comes from this one.
Right, Pat, I saved you for last for a reason. You and I had the pleasure in 2018 of calling the last game of Troy Haynes, and the last touchdown of the game scored by Troy Haynes. And the reason I mentioned that is we all talked about the fourth quarter, and we know why. It's to play like 4.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's right.
And like you guys have mentioned, I mean, there's no doubt that plays a role into their second half and fourth quarter success. Sometimes if the tank's empty, you need something to help fill you up. That's filling them up right there to help them push them over the edge. In this game, they're going to come out. They're going to be, ready to go on the home field advantage. And any coach Marvin Dooley team they very rarely lack juice. And I don't think that they're going to lack juice in this one. Friends is kind of, to me, historically, I feel like it's come from the same ilk of Archmere, where they're not going to blow you away with their athleticism, but they play smart, fundamental football. They don't make mistakes, and they outsmart you. This is like a brains versus brawn type matchup. They'll keep it close, but I do think Woodbridge, with their athleticism, like you said, the home field advantage, their defense is elite, and then obviously the for Troy, right? The spirit of Troy Haynes is within them. They're going to be a tough team to beat at home. So I would have to lean towards Woodbridge, but this Friends team, anything can happen, especially when you play well and you don't turn the football over. So we'll have to see what happens.
And Pat, I'll make sure I bring up a couple of Scrabble sandwiches for the championship weekend.
Yes.
I know you missed them.
God bless you all down
It's been a while since you stole mine down there.
You stole everyone's.
Yeah, pretty much. So, hey, we're going to talk about AAA football. Middletown Smyrna. Are they on a collision course for the first ever Class AAA title? Well, we'll talk about it when we come back, folks.
Congratulations, Dover Federal, on 60 years in business in Delaware.
You've been by our side since our doors opened.
Thank you so much for giving me a call on so many years ago when I had no credit.
You helped our business grow into what it is today.
As a military family, thank you for supporting the financial needs of servicemen and their loved ones.
Happy anniversary, Dover Federal Credit Union.
Happy anniversary, Dover Federal.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Local people, local decisions, Dover Federal Credit Union.
Congratulations.
For over 15 years, our company has been building homes in Sussex County, Delaware. We offer a completely comprehensive program for our customers that makes building a new home enjoyable. At Capstone Homes, we have access to lots in our amazing communities or through our realtor partners. Visit with our team of professionals for a completely comprehensive experience. We can handle absolutely every part of building a new home for you and your family. Create your new home. Create a Capstone home. For over
Welcome to Premier Physical Therapy and Sports Performance. We're a locally owned outpatient physical therapy practice with convenient locations in all 3 counties in Delaware. At Premier, we have experienced physical therapists with advanced credentials, but their hospitality, passion, and enthusiasm is what makes the difference for you. Find our convenient locations at premierptsp.com.
You may have tried physical therapy,
but have you tried Premier?
And welcome back to our third segment of our Delaware Live Sports semifinal breakdown here of the DIAA State Championship Football Tournament. Now it's time to talk about AAA. Gentlemen, it's time. The big show all year. Everybody's talking about this division. We're talking about maybe, is it just going to happen? Is it fate? Are we destined for a collision course with Smyrna and Middletown? But there might be a couple teams that have some say in that. And we'll start with the first game on Friday night. The number 5 Dover Senators and the number 1 Smyrna Eagles, 7 o'clock kickoff. The Eagles cruised through their quarterfinal game, 46-6 over William Penn. And we've all gotten to know that Smyrna offense, Edge, the Knight brothers, DeMoe, Smith. But how much improved is their defense? Dover got on the radar this year when they beat St. George's midseason and then came back and did it again on Saturday afternoon. Both those games at St. George's. The Senators have played well, even though it's been an up and down season with them. Now they're coming into the sea of red, as Cameron Edge calls it. Guys, this at one time was the trophy game, as Glenn alluded to in the last segment. We may be seeing that coming back as Dover under Chip Knapp is starting to build themselves into a bit of a football program again. Glenn, I'll start with you.
Well, you mentioned the defense, and you're right. Most people, when they first think of the Smyrna Eagles, they think offense. Smyrna can put a lot of points on the board, and they have done that ever since Coach Mike Judy showed up there. But the defense has really made a difference the back end of this season. Their very special linebacking core of Lesniak, Radcliffe, Moyer, and Jenkins, those 4 have combined for nearly 300 of the team's 740 tackles. That's 40%. They've combined for 51 tackles for loss and 15 sacks. And then you have one of the best defensive linemen, I think, in the state with sophomore. And remember, I said sophomore, Brandon West. He just set the single season sack record at Smyrna with 13 sacks, the previous record held by Debo Williams, who had 10.5. And of course, we all know where he is now at South Carolina. He's only a sophomore. He can break the career sack record at Smyrna, which is 19, and he might break that very easily if he can stay healthy. Oh, and by the way, Benny, he wrestled last year at Smyrna as a 9th grader. I have to bring up the wrestling
stuff. Yes, sir, he did. 145-pounder.
That's right. They're solid also in the secondary. I mean, they got a group back there of Hicks and Woodruff, Stinnett, and Stewart. They've only allowed more than 1 score to 3 of the 3A opponents that they faced this season, and that was Middletown and St. George's and Dover. But they've only allowed 41 points in their last 5 wins. They're riding an 8-game winning streak into the semis. And then that prolific offense. I don't know if you hear these numbers, I don't know of a better quarterback running back combination in the state than Cam Edge and Wayne Knight. Edge has completed 66% of 234 passes for over 2,600 yards, 24 touchdowns, only 2 picks. And then Wayne Knight he's now a 1,000-yard rusher for the season with 25 touchdowns. He averages 8 yards a carry, and he was special Friday night in that playoff game against William Penn. 3 times Smyrna had 1-play drives, and it was all him on runs. A 50-yard run. He had another run of about 40 yards and 27 yards. He's one of the most intelligent runners I've ever seen. He can see a hole and hit it real fast and hard as soon as he gets the ball when he sees that gap. Or when there's nothing there, he'll hesitate and wait for the blocking to develop and sidestep people like he did on that 95-yard screen pass against Lazy Animal in that downpour. Yeah. I watched him. He hesitated down there. He got past a couple of guys at the line of scrimmage, and then he broke loose. He can catch a pass and make yards after the catch. Those 2 are special. And I'm not even talking about the 4 wide receivers
Right.
who have had outstanding years. Yamir Knight, his younger brother, has scored 54 points. Devin DeMoe, maybe one of the most athletic and talented wide receivers in the state. Denham Smith's another burner. And then Friday night, what does Smyrna do? They bring in 2 kids, wideouts, who haven't really caught the ball all year, and Fretz, who makes a diving catch on 4th down and 7 from the Smyrna 21. That was in the first drive of the game. They gamble on 4th down at their own 21-yard line. He makes a diving catch, keeps his feet in bounds, makes a first down, and then later on, a kid named Andre Ashley, he made a diving catch downfield. So many weapons offensively. Defense has been getting better every week. I'd like to tell you that I think this is going to be a close game because Chip Knapp has Dover very disciplined this year. That's been the key word for the Senators, and they had to be disciplined in that close win that they had 9-7 Saturday. I don't see it being close. It wasn't close the first time they met, and I think Smyrna wins this game by 3 scores.
Pat Garantes, your thoughts on this game?
Yeah, I mean, I think Smyrna right now. Smyrna's a buzzsaw. If you're running into it, you're getting chopped up right now. You talked about the weapons and Cam Edge. Honestly, I don't think I've seen a kid at 16 years of age, however old he is, have the pocket presence, the footwork, the mechanics, and arm strength all wrapped into one at such a young age. You watch him play, and you really do feel like you're almost watching a pro. Like, seriously, with the way that his footwork is and the way he handles the football, the decision making is there. You said 2 interceptions. I think both of them were against Bergen Catholic, if I'm not mistaken. The key for Smyrna in that game against Middletown was they weren't able to protect Cam. And Cam was having a run around. There was a lot of quick passes because they didn't trust their offensive line. That unit, they look like they're well improved. If they can continue to do that and they give him the time, obviously Wayne Knight has done what he's done. Yeah, I think there's just too much there to stop. And I do think Smyrna does make their way into the championship game. But crazier things have happened. And like Glenn said, this is a different Dover team in terms of discipline. So we'll see what they can do, see what they can bring to the table.
I talked to Mike Judy before the Cape game and the last game of the year, and he talked about the Bergen Catholic game. He said he comes to that game for a reason.
Yeah.
So they could be ready for this run now, this playoff run. He wanted his team to see a Bergen Catholic type team to get ready for the playoffs.
By the way, Benny, I heard Bergen Catholic won the New Jersey State Championship. There's talk that that's possibly the best team that ever come out of that state, and they're ranked number 6 in the nation.
Yeah, they were legit, man.
Right. So, Jason, we've heard all about Smyrna. You're Chip Knapp, man. Do you even start the bus?
That's why you play the games, right, Benny? Anything can happen sometimes in playoff. I am with Glenn and Pato. I really like Smyrna, and I think they have a chance to win big. But you always get on the bus, you always go and play, and and like I said with Tatnall earlier, maybe you tell the guys you're playing with house money, go in there, play disciplined football, don't turn the ball over. And, we saw that the other first half of Appo Middletown, right? Where Appo kept Middletown scoreless in the first half. They couldn't get anything going offensively, but, and that's what Dover's got to do. They got to find a way to try and stay in the game, maybe long drives, keep that Smyrna offense off the field. But the key for me is Smyrna's defense. They've really, from that second half of the St. George's game on, they've been one of the best defenses in the state. They haven't given up much. Like Glenn said, I believe 4 of their last 5 games, no one scored more than 1 touchdown on them. So, they're playing really solid now. But it seems like that team hit its second gear, in that come from behind win at St. George's, where they did not look good early in that game, and it looked like St. George's was the better team that day. And then Smyrna came out, found a way to get back in the game, eventually win it, and they haven't looked back since. And right now, I think they're hitting on all cylinders, and I like them by a lot in this game. But stranger things happen come state tournament time.
Right. And Mike, last year I think we all thought Smyrna was headed to the state finals, and Sussex Central said, no, 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 no. Went up there and upset them. Can Dover do the same thing?
I just don't know if Dover has the offense to get it done. They scored 9 points against St. George's on Saturday, and you know, they 3 of them was that field goal at the end of the game. You know, I like what Chip Knapp has done there. It's kind of a, you know, Dover's always had a good team. The record's not a whole lot different this year, but it just seems like there's a different vibe around that Senators program. You know, usually it was the middle of the season, and you read about a game where they'd have 6 personal fouls and 3 guys quit the team, and that just doesn't seem like it's happened this year. So I like what he's done. I just, you know, this isn't the knock against Dover. You know, Smyrna's whooping everybody. So, you know, can they keep it close? I hope so. I'd love to see a great game. You know, Jason mentioned what Apo did on Friday. You know, and it's great if you want to chew the clock up, and you do want to keep Smyrna's offense off the field, but you have to score. I mean, you got eventually those long drives have to pay off in some points, or you know, if you're like Apo found out, doesn't matter how long you get the offense out there, eventually the other team's going to find a way. And it took an onside kick from Middletown to get started. So I don't know if I just don't know if Dover has the firepower to hang with Smyrna, but congratulations to them for getting this far. They ought to be pretty proud of what they've done, and I really hope it's a nice competitive game.
Yeah, I don't remember who was sent the text out Friday night. It was like Smyrna was scoring faster than you guys could text. It would be like 20 to 6, boom, 40 to 6. You know, it was that quick.
Telling you, man. Long story short, I think Twitter Phil is going to be a happy man.
Yeah.
On Friday night, we'll see.
I understand, Glenn. I understand you met the famous Twitter Phil.
Yeah. I had never met the guy, and I'm walking up into the press box after being down on the field. And you all know how cold and windy it was Friday night. I just wanted to get back in the booth. And this guy goes, "Hey, Glenn." And I turn to look, and I'm thinking, he's all bundled up. He's got the hoodie on. And I'm looking at him, and he knows I don't know who it is. He goes, "It's Twitter Phil." And I said, "Really? Twitter Phil? Come on in here. You got to meet Nick Halliday."
Right. All right, so let's move to the last game of the weekend. One of the last games of the weekend. Number 3, Slazanum. Number 2, Middletown. Saturday night, 7:00 at Middletown. Our final game of the weekend, and it's always a big game when the Sows and the Cavaliers step on the gridiron. Slazanum, they handled Sussex Central for the second time this season, 34-12. We always talk about how it's hard to beat a team twice. They handled them twice. No problem. Middletown, they had to go in the halftime, kind of figure out what was going on with Apo's defense, and they did, as they reeled off 27 points in the second half to defeat their crosstown rival, and now they're in the semis. The highly anticipated matchup was canceled back in October. Does this make this even more highly anticipated now? Is this like emptying a bottle of Heinz 57? That's a joke for me and you, Glenn. These guys probably never saw that commercial.
Is it the secret ingredients? Is it like the secret ingredients?
The old anticipation. See, I told you, Glenn. We don't even know. The other ones know it.
57 special ingredients.
But there you go. So, Jason, talk about this game.
Yeah, you know, and I think this is going to be an interesting game because they haven't met during the regular season because of that canceled game. You know, Middletown's got it all: offense, defense. Probably one of the best defenses we've seen in a long time. They don't give up many points. You know, this is a different Sally's team, kind of, that they mix in a short passing game to go with the running game, ground game. But it all starts with Connor Campbell. He's having a fantastic season, you know, and he's done it with both his arm and his feet. He makes great decisions back there. And, you know, he had a fumble on Saturday night, but that's because he ran into the referee. But he, for the most part, he doesn't turn the ball over. He's really smart offensively, because if you turn the ball over against this Middletown team, they'll make you pay. I just don't know if the Sows have enough weapons to hang with Middletown. You know, and I just think Middletown's defense is too strong. I like Middletown in this game, and I think it's going to be a 2-score game, but if you're the Sal's, you have a chance because you played in a lot of tough games, a lot of close games this year, and found ways to win. Sal's has also come back a lot. They were trailing against Appo. They were trailing against Dover at halftime. They've been able to come back in second half of these games. And I think they got a lot of confidence in that win on Saturday against Sussex Central. Like you said, Ben, they were the defending state champs, and it's tough to beat a team twice, and they pretty handily played very well. And they took advantage of some great field position the whole first half.
Pat, after the first game, I got to see the first new look Salesianum, and I joked with Coach Donato after the game. I said, whose offense was that out there? I mean, I saw some no tight end sets. Talk about this Salesian team. It's different.
It is. It definitely is. And unfortunately for me, the one time I did get to see them, it was in the monsoon against Smyrna, which kind of limits you offensively. But they're young. Obviously, like Jason said, they're kickstarted by Connor Campbell. They're still big up front and strong up front. But this is a challenge offensively for Salesianum. They got a front seven that they got to deal with that is absolutely insane. When you go Burke, who's uncommitted but is a D1 type talent, Cody Harris Miller, that is going to be going to Army, Tomi Wadora-Jaye, who's going to Kentucky off the edge, and then you go Cheaton and Wheeler as linebackers that get the job done, and then you got a playmaker like Zaire Tart in the secondary who also he does everything, man. Right. Receiving, kick returning, defensive back. That defensive front, that is single-handedly why Smyrna looked as bad as they did in that opening week game, is because they were able to blow right through that offensive line. So the matchup to watch is that offensive line of Salesianum, if they can contain the defensive front of the Cavaliers. If they can, could be a contest. I think what you saw in this previous game against Appoquinimink was a bye week. And I honestly do think, as much of the cardinal sin as it is, that Middletown was kind of looking past Appo a little bit because they looked sluggish in the first half. Braden Davis was underthrowing guys. It was windy, but he was underthrowing guys left and right. And then they came out, they onside kicked it coming out of the second half. They established the run for the first time of the game in that first drive of the second half. And then there was no looking back. They just kind of, buzzsawed their way through Appo. But if Salesianum's able to protect Campbell, they have a chance, but that's easier said than done because this defensive front for Middletown is absolutely elite.
Mike, you've probably seen more Salesianum games than any of us here on the panel tonight. Tell us how this game could go.
I think it's like Pat said with the defense, they just have so many weapons. And the thing about Middletown, they scored 4 touchdowns the other night, and they scored 4 different ways. They scored on a rush, a pass, pick six, and then a punt return. And the punt return, that was Middletown just kind of let it bounce, and the Appo players were just standing around, and I forget who the guy from Middletown was, just reached in and grabbed it and took off and kind of caught them asleep. You can't make any mistakes against these guys because they'll kill you. And it's going to be, the cowbells will be out, and it's going to be, no parking down there in Middletown, and it's tight in the stands, it's tight in the press box, it's tight on the sidelines. It's not a very pleasant place to go play. And it was cold on top of that press box to boot. And but the Sallies, they could do it. They have a lot of weapons and a lot of variety, but you just wonder if they just have enough to play with Middletown. And again, as a fan, I want to see a competitive game. Mm-hmm. I just hope that Sally's shows up and brings her A game because they're going to need it. That was the first chance I had to see Middletown this year in person, and I was pretty impressed with not the first half. That was, like Pat said, they looked like their heads were elsewhere, but boy, that third quarter in particular was something else. They just they got it every which way. So the Sal's are going to need they're going to need to bring their A game, and and Bill DiNardo, he's been around a long time, and he'll have them ready to go.
40 consecutive games Middletown's won at home? That's another thing to keep in mind.
Something like that.
Yeah, what's funny about Middletown, as good as they've been, they haven't won a state championship since 2012, which is really hard to believe. I believe that Godwin was on that
Sophomore.
team, and Darius
Wade.
Darius Wade, yeah. So that's it's been a long time since they won a
In
state championship.
2013, you had the state championship game where 3 current NFL players played in that game with Godwin, Reeder, and O'Neal.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, it's we're the hotbed of football, pro football talent right here in
Right.
the 302.
So Glenn, a year ago, me and you were in the box for the semifinals in Middletown, and I understand it's going to be tight, as Mike said. So we're going to be back in there again Saturday night, as you and I will have the call of Middletown and Salesianum.
Yeah, I'll agree with Mike. It's not a very pleasant to call a game, is it?
We got fans standing up in front of you.
Yeah, and we're going to have that. And I'll have to talk to the PA announcer. I know him, and we're going to have to try to get him to get out there and clear it out. And then they turn around and stare at you like, what? They don't care. Hey, I went to school there. They're not trying to make you comfortable in Middletown, believe me. Well,
I just say get there real early for a parking spot. Pat saw where I parked. I was relatively close, but I was across the street parked in front of somebody's house. So you got to get there early.
Yeah. Hey, don't worry. I used to live in Middletown. I know where to park. That won't be a problem. The problem is going to be for Salesianum in the trenches to me. And Pat, you're right. If they don't let Connor Campbell have time to make decisions, and he is a really good decision maker, I noticed that against Sussex Central. He can beat you with his legs, can beat you with his arm. Of course, he can beat you with his foot, but he can beat you most by his decision making. He has a high football IQ, but he's got to have time. If Middletown brings that front seven, like I think they do, because Salesianum has changed offensively. There's no doubt. They go with 2 wide out sets on both sides of the field without a tight end a lot. But it's a lot of dump passes. It's a lot of short passes. It's out routes. And Middletown's going to play up tight on all of that. And they are extremely talented, as everybody's already said. But I think it's going to come down to line play. Who's going to win the game right there in the trenches? And if Salesianum can't allow Campbell to have time to do his thing, Middletown's just going to eat him up.
All right, so let's go to, we did this last week. We'll do it again this week. Not your game to go to. Your can't miss game this weekend. Pat, we'll start with you. What is your can't miss game this weekend?
I think it's Laurel and Indian River, believe it or not. I mean, they played to a 1-point contest the first time around. If you're looking for a competitive game, like, okay, maybe there's not the star power in that game that you can see in some of the other matchups. But if you're looking just for a solid football game, 2 good atmospheres, 2 good fan bases, and a will to try and get to a championship game, I think that's your contest. I think it's going to be a really, really tight matchup.
Mike?
Since I'm in Claymont, I'm going to go with DMA Archmere, the rematch. DMA, I know they were not happy. They were embarrassed by what happened at their home field a couple of weeks ago, and Archmere is going to have the hill's going to be packed up at the patio, and it's going to be a great atmosphere. And so yeah, I would say DMA Archmere. I think it's going to be a fantastic game.
Jason, where are you going? Where are you putting your ticket this weekend?
I'm also going to Claymont, DMA Archmere. But here's another reason for that, Benny. I heard today they're only selling 1,700 tickets for that game. 1,700. That will sell out by tomorrow afternoon. It's going to be packed. It's going to be great, but it's a small crowd. If they had this game anywhere else, you can get 3,000-4,000 people in there. So it's going to be interesting in that front that it's going to be a smaller crowd, but it's going to be a loud crowd. I think it's 2 teams that I think it's going to be a really close game, unlike the first time, if DMA can stay out of the turnovers. And I just think it's going to be an exciting game with, only 1,700 people there.
Glenn Frazier.
Good choices by the other guys, every one of them. There's going to be a lot of good ball games, without a doubt. Woodbridge, Wilmington Friends. I would pay to go watch that game.
You have to buy it online.
I know.
That's
been
the big complaint this year. Tickets have to be sold online.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to be doing the Woodbridge Wilmington Friends game. So I'm gonna agree with Pat. I think the atmosphere is going to be at the Dog Pound. If you've ever been to a Laurel home football game, especially when they're winning, man, that place gets packed. It gets loud. The dogs are barking, and I mean the fans are barking. The PA addresser's barking, and yeah, the place is rocking. And you're going to be bringing in Indian River. They're not rivals, but they're going to be rivals on Friday night. Trust me. I interviewed a couple Indian River kids, and both of them, you saw them on Twitter, called out Laurel in their interviews. And I said to Coach, man, is that okay to put that up? He said, man, these kids want them. These kids want them. You know, and they haven't beaten, this group of IR kids hasn't beaten Laurel yet. And they want to go in there Friday night and pull the upset. And let me tell you something, I used to coach at Laurel. I know a lot of people still in Laurel. You ain't backing them down. You know, this is the you know, these are two rocks getting ready to go at it, man. It's going to be electric in Laurel on Friday night.
Be careful what you wish for, Indian River. Be careful what you wish for.
And I bet if I was able to interview the Laurel kid, it would have been the same thing. That's just smash mouth, Sussex County football, the old Henny South. You know, those guys love to get after it. They love to talk about it before the game too. So, you know, all right, guys. Next week, man, we got this weekend to go, and next week we're all going to be up. I'm hearing, I guess, Newark, and nothing official yet, but championship weekend's coming up. We'll have actually all 4 games because you're going to have the unified game. So enjoy your guys' week and get ready to get to work on another whirlwind weekend like we did last weekend. We'll be covering the games out there for people. So from Delaware Live, for Glenn Frazier, Jason Winslow, Mike Lang, and Pat Gariantes, Nick had to skip on us. Have a good night, and we'll see you this weekend.